What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 3 of the Elephant Wire Podcast, the show where we break down song lyrics and don't play you a damn second of the song because major labels are thieving babies that would sue us up the ass. This week's episode, we're going to be dissecting the song Same Drugs by Chance the Rapper. Let's fucking get some.
Welcome to the Elephant Wire Podcast. Music, drugs, laughter, lyrics.
What's up, y'all? How's everybody doing? Just sitting here, listening to Same Drugs on repeat over and over and over because I fucking love this song. However, I feel like Buddy the Elf right now saying my finger has a heartbeat because I about took the end of my finger off today, and I'm not quite sure how I'm going to go about it. I'm thinking super glue is probably my best option because Lord knows I ain't going to the hospital to get stitches, so I'm gonna have to do this real quick and then go grab some super glue at the grocery store or something like that. I'm gonna have to figure this situation out because this is gonna be a situation that we're gonna have to figure out. But anyway, that's not your problem. That's my problem. What's our problem is what the fuck is the song Same Drugs about? That's what we're gonna talk about today, everybody. Chance the Rapper, fantastic young man. And before we go a step further, I just want to throw a kudos and a hell yeah and an attaboy and that's what's up, dude, to Chance. Because his entire music career, this young man has retained his independence and the entire time has had to fight off the evil barons of the music industry. And the whole time we've had his back as the people because he keeps giving us hits. And I fucking love it. Chance the Rapper, we just want to thank you for being a light in a dark tunnel. The light in a candle on a hill. There we go. Chance the Rapper, you are a candle on a hill to all of us out here, showing us that you can stay independent and you don't need big music industry money to be a fucking success. Thank you so much. This might be a good time to say, if you like the Elephant Wire Podcast and want to support how do you do, go to anchor.fm/theelephantwire.com. That's all I got to say about that. Anyway, Chance the Rapper, born Chancellor Jonathan Bennett, born in Chicago, Illinois in 1993. I've already said keeping his independence, no signs of stopping. It's absolutely incredible. One thing right off the bat that I will say, Chance the Rapper actually, I found this very interesting. He actually credits his rap career to the first time he heard Kanye. Now, where Kanye is at now in the current climate of the world, in his last few years, we miss Kanye. And we can't wait for him to come back. And we can't wait for that new album. Kanye, we miss you, and we love you, and we just want to see you well. Poor Kanye. One day we'll have him back, but we'll see what happens. But anyway, he credits the first time he heard Kanye, because before that, obviously growing up in Chicago, he had heard tons of hip-hop, tons of rap, had been immersed in the scene in his neighborhoods and with his friends, but it was not until he heard Kanye that he went, I want to do that shit. That's what's up. And in the early parts, I can combine those, I guess. He was in a hip-hop collective called Save Money Chicago. They originated, obviously, in Chicago, Illinois. And it was a hip-hop group of just artists and DJs and artists and graffiti artists and producers. And it was a group of fantastic young men. It was started by rapper Vic Mensa in 2008. I actually have a funny story on this. In 2012, the house that I was living in downtown Chicago, I grew up in the Chicago area. In 2012, right before I had moved to Colorado, I was living downtown Chicago in the Wicker Park neighborhood. I was living really close to Division and Ashland. And if anyone knows the city, that's your area right there. And I was living Division and Ashland, and on Mondays, after a weekend of bartending, on Mondays, I'd go do my laundry. And so I'd walk out the back of my house, and I'd walk down the alley about, 200 feet, and I'd go in the back door of the laundromat and get my laundry going. Well, pretty much every Monday, whenever I would be walking down the alley, about 100 feet down the alley, was Save Money Chicago's practice space. Now, at the time, in 2012, I didn't think anything of it. I'd never heard of these young men. I didn't know anything about them. But only to their credit is the fact that they did not put on airs as if they were anybody but just some young men who were out there killing it. And that's what I took it as, because the day that I met the first time that I met them, I remember walking out the back of my house, and there's like 5 or 6 dudes standing there. And Vic actually said something to me first. Vic Mensa, he was standing there in a black hoodie, and he was just being a goober and make everybody laugh. And he's like, "What's up, man?" And I was like, "Hey, what's going on, boys?" And they were smoking some weed. And as I walked by, I was like, "Oh, I'll go and, like, after I throw my laundry in, I'll go and grab some weed, and I'll come back and I'll smoke with y'all." And they were like, "Oh, that's super cool, man." So, and then whenever I came back over, I noticed that there was now a young man standing outside, and I remember it very well because he was wearing overalls. And he walked up to me and said, "Hey, what's up, man? My name is Chance." Now, it's really funny to think in 2012, like when this was happening, this was right around the time that Chance was releasing 10 Day, is when this album was coming out. And like I said, I didn't know anything about these young men. They did not put on airs as if they were anybody but just some young man in the hustle trying to get some. And for all accounts and purposes, the majority of them were. But I didn't think anything of it. They were just some cool cats that I would smoke weed with on Mondays, and they'd make fun of me because I can't roll a joint. And it wasn't until years later that I actually realized who I had met and who those young men were and where they ended up going. And I kind of kick myself now that I didn't get in tighter with their crew, But that's super selfish, and they've done just fine without me and their crew, so we'll just let that keep going. But Save Money Chicago is where Chance started, and quite a few young men started. But as far as the album itself that we're talking about today, our song "Same Drugs" comes off the album Coloring Book, which came out May 13th, 2016. Now, this was his third mixtape. He had 10 Day in 2012, he had Acid Rap in 2013, and then he released Coloring Book in 2016. So he had a pretty solid gap between Acid Rap and Coloring Book, about 3 years. This statistic blows me away. It was the first album to chart on the US Billboard 200 solely on streams, coming in at number 8. That is absolutely bonkers. And once again, we thank Chance the Rapper for retaining his independence and keeping his independence his entire career, and showing everybody that you don't need big money, you just need good music. And that is what it is. If you're a solid young man that wants to give love and be loved and love those around you and create good music while you're at it, there's no reason in hell that the sky can't be your limit. It's absolutely insane to come in at number 8 on the Billboard 200 solely off of streams, no physical release. And the year after it came out, at the 2017 Grammy Awards, it was also it won Best Rap Album and was the first streaming only album to ever win a Grammy. It won Best Rap Album in 2017. Only streams. First time it had ever been done at the Grammys. Absolutely bonkers. In 2016, when the album came out, at the BET Hip Hop Awards, it won Best Mixtape, which is also an incredible honor. When I was researching this episode, I stumbled upon the Reddit AMA that Chance had done, and he mentioned that this song that we're talking about today actually had 20 different, upwards of 20 different versions, and he said it was the hardest song on the entire album to write. And it makes sense because it's very different from all the other songs on the album. I mean, when the album starts, we have All We Got featuring Kanye and the Chicago Children's Choir. A fantastic song and a great way to lead into the album. Very next song on the album is No Problems featuring Lil Wayne and 2 Chainz, which absolutely sums up exactly what we've been giving Chance the Rapper kudos for, and that's retaining his independence. If one more label tries stopping me, I'm gonna smack a motherfucker. And that's not the actual words, but you get my point. As far as the song we're talking about today, like I said, he admitted that there's about 20 other versions out there. There is another version of the song Same Drugs out there that has Regina Spektor on it. He's admitted this in a couple different interviews. And at some point, I hope to God we get to hear this version, because that would be absolutely awesome to hear Regina Spektor singing on Same Drugs. I would absolutely love that. at a show in the Netherlands in 2016 in November, so not too long after he had released Coloring Book. He was getting ready to perform the song Same Drugs, and he said that he had actually wrote the song Same Drugs 2 years before listening on Color Book, so not long. Excuse me. I've been drinking beers all day, and now I'm burping and trying to do a podcast. My bad, everybody. Anyway, in 2016, he said that he had written Same Drugs 2 years before Coloring Book ever came out, which is not too long after Acid Rap. So Same Drugs had been sitting in his repertoire, ready to go for quite a while by the time any of us actually got to hear it. And at that same concert in the Netherlands in 2016, he made a statement to the crowd I found very funny. He said, "It's very different than most of my songs, so I was very afraid to put it on Coloring Book. But it ended up going on, and I'm going to perform it, because I ain't no bitch." Which is awesome, because he ain't no bitch. And honestly, he made overalls not... He masculinized. Is that a word? Masculinized overalls? While not being a misogynist. It was very incredible to watch how he did it. He did it with grace, and he did it with poise. Fantastic young man. But let's start to break down the melody of this song a little bit. The majority of this song is actually piano. And if there's any way that I would describe the piano for the song Same Drugs, I would say it is light and it is majestic. That is the way that I would also, if there's one other descriptive adjective that I would throw in there, I might say lullaby, is almost the point. And all three of those descriptive words, they actually fit the point of the song. They actually fit the gist and the overall theme of the song as well. As we get into the lyrics, that'll make a lot more sense. But it comes in at track 6 of 14 on the album. It is 4 minutes, 18 seconds long. I think one of the coolest things about this song is the use of vocals. The Chance's vocal range on this song is a lot different than anything he'd really done, especially on Coloring Book, much less other albums, being much more soft, much more somber, and like I said, almost like a lullaby. The background vocals and his use of choir / at times there is almost this over-computerized voice that is going on in the background. And it just adds this very playful aspect. But as I said, I mean, the main instrument in this song is the piano. It's not until later in the song that we get almost the more rhythm-wise, we get this almost Casio, like play Casio piano sounding clap that comes into play and enters the picture. I for a long time listening to this song, like a lot of people, I just took it for what it was. I just, he used to do drugs with someone and now he doesn't. And I really didn't consider a whole lot about it. It wasn't until really not long before even the idea of this podcast even came about that I really started to consider this, because Chance has come forward multiple times and has said that obviously drugs in this song, we're not actually talking about drugs. He's talking about he doesn't have the same activities, he doesn't do the same things, he doesn't spend the same amount of time with the person that is the focal point of this song. And it's almost like a lighthearted way of saying it, saying we don't do the same drugs no more. I think another very important point to add to this before we really get into it is obviously the point of this song is about growing up. And if there's one area in my life that I've definitely had a tough time doing my entire life, it's growing up. And there's a lot of areas that I refuse to grow up. There's some areas where I've had no choice but to grow up, as far as paying taxes or voting or, I don't know, grocery shopping, if you will. But there are more than enough points in my life where I straight up fucking refuse to grow up, because who cares? It is funny, once you actually start to grow up, you start to realize that whenever you were a child looking up to adults and you thought, oh, they had it all figured out. No, they fucking didn't. They're making this shit up as they go. When you think back to your 5th grade teacher who was telling you what life was going to be like, she doesn't even know what life is like. She's figuring it out, still, at 30 years old. It is fucking hilarious to me, and it almost adds it almost adds even more validity to this song as we start to go through these lyrics. But as far as I'm concerned, that's about all I got for the setup of this. I am incredibly stoked to start diving through these lyrics. There's a lot that we can pull out of here, so I'll see you guys in a couple. We don't do the same drugs no more. We don't do the same drugs. Do the same drugs no more. 'Cause she don't do the same drugs no more. We don't do the same drugs. Do the same drugs no more. When did you change? Wendy, you've aged. I thought you'd never grow up. I thought you'd never. Window closed. Wendy got old. I was too late, I was too late. A shadow of what I once was. 'Cause we don't do the same drugs no more. We don't do the same drugs. Do the same drugs no more. She don't laugh the same way no more. We don't do the same drugs. Do the same drugs no more. Where did you go? Why would you stay? You must have lost your marbles. You always were so forgetful. In a hurry? Don't wait up. I was too late, I was too late. A shadow of what I once was. 'Cause we don't do what we say we're gonna. You were always perfect, and I was only practice. Don't you miss the days, stranger? Don't you miss the days? Don't you miss the danger? We don't do the same drugs no more. Don't forget the happy thoughts. All you need is happy thoughts. The past tense, past bedtime. Way back when everything we read was real, and everything we said rhymed. Wide-eyed kids being kids. Why did you stop? What did you do to your hair? Where did you go to end up right back here? When did you start to forget how to fly? Don't you color out. Don't you bleed on out. Stay in the line. Stay in the line, dandelion. Hell yeah, boys and girls, that's what I'm talking about. Same Drugs, Chance the Rapper, off the album Coloring Book. I'm all about this shit. One more thing I wanted to share from, just kind of funny, from the Reddit AMA that Chance the Rapper did. Someone posed the question to him that said, do you do the same drugs anymore? And Chance responded, I do, but she don't. Which should have gone without saying. It was kind of a dumb question, but I found that pretty funny. That's a good time. But anyway, I'm ready to dive right into this. This is fantastic. The song starts with the chorus. We don't do the same drugs no more. We don't do the same drugs no more. We don't do the same drugs no more because she don't do the same drugs no more. We have our first lyric here that we're going to dive into. He says we quite a few times, and then he says why. Because she don't do the same drugs no more. And this is an interesting thought process. This is Chance saying, I would absolutely be there. I'd absolutely partake, and I'd absolutely be a part of it. She, on the other hand, does not want to. And before we go any further in this song, I just want to say that it feels as if that this song, as we start to pick apart these lyrics, that it does feel that this is a love interest of some kind. It feels more than friends. It doesn't feel like family. It feels that this was a love interest. And he doesn't ever necessarily call it out. He doesn't ever necessarily say that, you dumped me. And he has a couple statements here and there that we can kind of start to put some things together, and we can just kind of assume, or, everything's all subjective anyway. But it does feel like that this is a love interest. And so basically saying right off the bat, like, look, we're not the people that we used to be together because you didn't want to be that person anymore. Is basically what we can take away from this very first chorus. Because let's actually get into it. Verse 1, when did you change? Wendy, you've aged. Now, is he saying that she got older? Well, yes. Every single day we wake up, we got a little older. That's not actually what he's saying. What he's referencing is he's referencing the movie Hook, and just Peter Pan in general. Because Wendy left Neverland to grow up. And in the movie Hook, like toward the beginning of the movie Hook, when Robin Williams is narrating, and he's talking about his relationship with Wendy. He tells the story of he lost his shadow at one point. He came into their bedroom to find his shadow. Wendy helps him, and then Wendy is now telling the story that he would come back every spring, and every spring that he would come back, he would ask her, do you want to come with me to Neverland? And she always would. But then things started to change, and she started to grow up, and she started to go to Neverland less until it got to the point that in the movie, and it actually, after doing all the research that I did on this song, we will get more to the actual statement of it later, but when Peter finally, one last time, comes to Wendy and asks her to come, and she says that she can't go because she's forgotten how to fly. This is a lyric later in the song. We will reference this. But the only reason I bring it up here is because in that scene, Wendy has gotten significantly older. And Peter has stayed the same because he is in Neverland. He is still a boy. He's still living in Neverland where you don't age. And here he's saying, I thought you'd never grow up. I thought you'd never. Like, I did not picture you being a person that would just cruise right into adulthood and be so stoked to be part of it. I thought you'd never grow up. I thought we would have this forever. And this is a very innocent thought process. I mean, when, I remember being in grade school and thinking those are going to be my friends for the rest of my life. And then I got to middle school and I had a completely different group of friends, and I thought I was going to be friends with those kids for the rest of my life. And then the same thing in high school, and then the same thing in college. And I'm a grown-ass adult, and I don't know one of those people anymore. And it's not anything bad. It's not like I had falling outs. Everyone grows up. Everyone goes their own direction. Everyone develops their own life path. And it sucks. That's one of the shittiest things about growing up. And so this is him just kind of coming clean and saying, I thought you weren't going to be one of those people. I thought you'd still be here. Then he says, window closed. Wendy got old. I was too late. I was too late. A shadow of what I once was. Once again, another Peter Pan lyric, because that's the way Peter ends up meeting Wendy in the first place, is he lost his shadow. And Wendy sews it back onto his feet. And then, there's a great scene of that in the Disney film, Peter Pan, the animated one. Well, then we go into the next chorus. And because we don't do the same drugs no more. I mean, he's once again referencing, look, we don't do the same things anymore. But this time he changes it a little bit. He says, she don't laugh the same way no more. And I found this line very interesting because it reminded me of a time where I had dated a girl for quite a while, and she was a beautiful human being. We had a great relationship. We had a lot of fun together, but things just sort of didn't work out. And you have the shitty breakup, and then you have that couple of months where, like, you really, like, no matter how good of a breakup it was, you really just don't want to fucking see each other. But there was one night I was out with my boys, and I ran into her at a bar. I ran up, and I gave her a big pre-COVID hug and, kiss on the cheek, and, hey, how are you? How are you been? Good to see you. We, talked back and forth for a minute. And I remember distinctly walking away from that conversation and thinking to myself, she laughed different. Like, she was laughing very differently than we used to. And it was almost like it was forced. It was almost like she wanted me to think that everything was just fine. And I remember that sticking with me for quite a while because, like I said, I mean, whenever, when you're with someone, there's a reason that you date someone. It's because you enjoy their company. You enjoy their friendship. You enjoy the camaraderie. So to then, after the relationship dissolves, and to come in contact with that's why I think it's so interesting that Chance says this. She don't laugh the same way no more. Now, this could be a situation like I was just referencing. He might have run into her, and she did the same thing, wanted him to think that life was so great, and so she forced laughter. It also could be something where her laughter is just not there like it used to be. Maybe she used to just let loose and just laugh at the top of her lungs, don't care who hears it, snort every now and again, just slapping the knees, really getting after it. And now she just kind of chuckles. It could go either way, but either way, like I said, I noticed it at one point in my life with a former girlfriend of mine, a former love interest. There might have this could go either direction, but it was enough that he felt it was necessary to reference it. And as we get into the second verse here, he says, "Where did you go, and why would you stay?" Which I find those back-to-back questions, I find that awesome. Because those are great back-to-back questions. Where'd you go, and why the fuck were you there so long? Because clearly, the worst part about a breakup, the absolute worst part about a breakup, is the fact that they're not in your life the way that they used to be. There's a reason that we date the people that we date. It's because we enjoy their company. We enjoy their friendship. It's really shitty whenever you get dumped or the relationship dissolves, that all of a sudden they're not in your life. You have this free time. And I don't care how tough someone tries to be. I don't care how glad they're out of my life. I'm sure there are actually times where people do need to be grateful that the person's no longer in their life. However, in a relationship like this seems as if it was a successful relationship. Things were going well. Where did you go? Why did you stay? I didn't have you in my life. What is going on? And then he says in here another reference to the movie Hook. You must have lost your marbles. You always were so forgetful. In the movie Hook, there's a character named Toodles, I believe is his name. Yes, Toodles. He's running around the whole movie saying that he lost his marbles. And everyone thinks he's a psychopath because obviously losing your marbles is a way of saying that someone is crazy. And so he's running around the whole movie trying to find his marbles. I can't find my marbles. So at the very end of the movie, Robin gives him his marbles, his bag of marbles. Robin found him. And he gives them to him, and they're his marbles from boyhood. And he has them, and he's not crazy. He's not crazy at all. He's been trying to find the entire movie what was his innocence, what was his what is his, his childlike, loves. The drugs that he used to do, to quote Chance here. You must have lost your marbles. You always were so forgetful. This line here is more of a line of just remembering the person that they used to be. You always were so forgetful. And then right after that he says, in a hurry, don't wait up. I was too late, a shadow of what I once was. And obviously the shadow here is another reference to Hook or Peter Pan in general. But this line here, in a hurry, don't wait up. I think that is once again him saying she was in such a fast pace to grow up. She was so ready to just become an adult and move on with life that she literally outgrew him. That she became the adult, the person that she wanted to become so much faster than him. And this is him saying, look, if that's the way it's going to be, then don't wait up. I'm too late then. I'm a shadow of what I once was. It's all good. He's not losing sleep over it. Now I say this, he's written an entire song that is a beautiful masterpiece. However, in the moment, in the lyrics that we're talking about. And then we get into another chorus. But this one's a lot different. Because the first line, we don't do what we say we're gonna. Now I found this line to be very interesting in the sense that it almost feels like he's starting to reference now the falling out of the relationship. And what happens whenever you're in a relationship and you're angry at each other and you start saying things that you don't mean. We don't do what we say we're gonna. You know what I'm gonna fucking do? Bah, 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 bah. We don't do what we say we're gonna. These are empty threats. We are angry. We have lost our mind. He's referencing this in the sense, and then he throws in just a little bit of a jab. You were always perfect, and I was only practice. She never made a mistake. Oh, no. I was the one that was making the mistakes in our relationship. And at the same time, I was just your practice for whoever was going to come next. These are jabs. These are cuts. These are just, he's really laying it out there. He's trying to make his point known. But then he instantly turns back around and comes back to where he's been for most of this song, where he says, "Don't you miss the days, stranger?" Now, if he would have just said, "Don't you miss the days," that's one statement. But to say, "Don't you miss the days, stranger?" She has absolutely nothing to do with his life anymore. She has completely vacated his life. And so to say, "Don't you miss the days, stranger?" Don't you miss the days? Don't you miss the danger? Now, the danger could mean a lot of things. This could be, I don't know, they're growing up in Chicago. This could be the neighborhood they grew up in. This could be the danger of like the mischief they would get into on the weekends. This could be the danger of maybe her former love before Chance and he didn't want them to be together. Or this could be 1,000 different things. But what he's also saying in this is, don't you miss the excitement? Don't you miss how fun it was? Don't you miss how we had to be on our toes? And how we were on our toes? And how we just lived by the seat of our pants? The danger, the excitement. How could someone not miss that? And when you think back about a past relationship, whether it ended poorly or not, when you think about the good times, and we'll get to this again because, almost exactly the next line, don't forget the happy thoughts. I mean, don't you miss the days of excitement? Don't forget the happy thoughts. All you need is happy thoughts. I mean, when you consider the former loves of your life, those are the things to consider. Don't dwell on the bad. We've all made mistakes. We've all said things that we're not going to do. And we understand that even in the moment. But don't forget the happy thoughts. And he even says in there, all you need is happy thoughts. And he even goes all the way back to retain, even more innocence and make it even more childlike. The past tense, past bedtime, way back then when everything we read was real and everything we said rhymed. He's talking about just the innocence of childhood. And even still, like this relationship, he could be more so talking about it in jest. They weren't actually children. He could be talking about it in jest. Although at the same time, whenever I talk about being 20 years old, I talk about being a child. Now that's literally, mentally, that's how when I look back now, that's how I felt. Not that I've grown so much older now. I just, it is what it is. So that's what I'm saying. He's referencing things that are childlike, past bedtime. Everything we read was real. Everything we said rhymed. Wide-eyed kids being kids. He says all of the reasons why these are the happy thoughts and these are the only things that we need to consider. And then he says, why did you stop? What was so wrong with everything we had going on? What did you do to your hair? And this just makes me think maybe back in the day, she had like wild, crazy hair. Maybe she was pink or purple or, she did it some crazy, funky way. But now she has bangs and it's just sort of hair. What did you do? What did you do to your hair? Where did you go to end up right back here? What was so important that you needed to leave and you needed to go do you to just end up right back here? And this is that line that I referenced right at the very beginning. When did you start to forget how to fly? Because whenever I was doing the research for this episode, and I remembered that line from the movie Hook, and so I pulled it up on YouTube and I rewatched that clip. And it almost brought me to tears. I mean, I was sitting there, I definitely had goosebumps. Because to think of this story that Chance is telling, and then to go back and watch that scene from the movie, and to think that he's using that scene to describe how he feels about this former love interest in his life. And to combine all of those emotions all into one. It is absolutely beautiful. And I would absolutely say, go on YouTube and watch that clip of Wendy telling Peter that she can't go to Neverland because she's forgotten how to fly. And it's also just a I don't know, an example of other areas of life where we've forgotten how to fly. I used to wake up on Saturday mornings as a kid and I would throw on my football pads and I'd run outside and all my other buddies, we'd all have football pads on. We all play football all day. And then I'd wake up on Sunday morning and I'd throw on basketball shorts and we'd play basketball all Sunday. And then I'd walk out, just every single day was something new, the innocence of it, the excitement. We were just flying. But then all of a sudden one day came along and those things weren't around anymore. And it's incredibly innocent. Nobody does this on purpose. But in this scenario, in this former love interest, he's using these things as an example. And he's using these things as, when did you start to forget how to fly? When did the day come along where you did not want the danger? You didn't want the excitement. When did that happen? And he says all this, and he tells this whole story, almost like Bob Saget telling his kids how he met their mother, to then get all the way to the end. And he has a statement for his daughter Kinsey. And this whole song has now become a story for his child when he says, "Don't you color out. Don't you bleed on out." And this is also a reference to the name of the mixtape, Coloring Book. And staying in the lines and being a part of society and don't color outside the lines. And in this parameter, he's using this exact same metaphor in a different way. Don't you color out, don't you bleed on out. Stay in the line. He's using this same metaphor in the reverse now. And what he's saying is, don't get in such a hurry to just take this whole picture and color the whole thing. Stay in the lines. Take your time. Stay in the line, and then he says Dandelion, which is his nickname for her. And I think this is absolutely phenomenal in the way that he has gone about this whole song, telling this story, asking the questions that he's been wanting to for decades probably. Not decades. Long time, as far as it's all considered. He tells all of these things, and the point of it the entire time was hoping that in the future his daughter does not have to go through this. That his daughter does not have to deal with the love and the loss, or more so the loss of love. And it's almost like a parent reaching out, trying to protect their child from being hurt. And obviously the greatest way to learn is to be hurt. Like I said at the beginning, I almost took the tip of my finger off today. I'm definitely not going to open a box like that again. I will tell you that. The best way to learn is to be hurt. But at the same time, it doesn't mean you get hurt on purpose. It doesn't mean you go out and hurt yourself just so you'll learn, because you won't learn that way. You knew to begin with if you do it on purpose. And so what he's hoping to steer his daughter Kinsey toward is that she doesn't have to deal with these things. Stay in the line. Don't bleed out. Allow life to develop as it comes. Be a child. Keep your innocence. And I also want to throw out there, I actually found, as far as the album Coloring Book, this song didn't really jump out at me for quite a while after I'd been listening to the album Coloring Book. However, this song ended up being my Spotify, in my top 3 Spotify plays of the year once I finally discovered it, because I played it constantly. Absolutely constantly. I love this album. I love this song in general. And I love the point of it, that he just, the words of encouragement to his daughter Kinsey, just hoping that she can avoid the pain of growing up too fast. Because retaining your youth and retaining your innocence, these are incredibly important things. As far as the song in and of itself, like I said, this is one of my favorite songs, much less probably my favorite song on the album. And this is probably the best example I have, probably this entire season, that from, the next time that you listen to this song, that you will listen to it differently, and you'll hear those little nuances, and you'll hear those differences that you might not have noticed before. And that's really all I got on this song, because it is now time, once again, for the local band spotlight. What is up, Santa Barbara, California, the home of Exporter? What's up? These guys are badass, good young men. I've been talking to them recently, and they wrote me and said, as far as the band goes, we're two brothers, Alec and Destin. We have had multiple friends fill in on drums, with our current drummer being named Henry. We have been playing music for most of our lives and started writing music together in recent years. Over the past year, we have released an EP called Bored, as well as a pair of demo tapes. The latest came out in August of 2020, which is basically me and Destin messing around messing around during quarantine. I want to throw out there, I have loved how much, if there's anything to enjoy about quarantine, it's how many bands have released music that is completely different than what they're used to doing. Because they're quarantine producing, or they're quarantine recording, or they're doing live versions, or they're doing, living room versions, or they're doing, it's been awesome to see how bands have gotten creative in this quarantine age. But Dustin continues to write, as a band, we love playing local shows and really building a scene here in Santa Barbara with our fellow local bands. Prior to COVID and the lockdown that followed, we had a large project involving a few other local bands as well as a handful of other shows planned here in town. Exporter, I hope sooner than later that you are able to go through with those plans. It was fantastic to have you on the podcast today as our local band spotlight. Make sure to check them out on Spotify. We've added one of their songs to the Local Bands That Don't Suck playlist. They're great cats. Check out the Local Bands That Don't Suck playlist. In general, we had Odd Apollo last week, and the week before that we had Cheer Up Dusty. Plenty of local bands and plenty of good music going forward. Same Drugs will be added to our weekly updated Spotify playlist, which is a different playlist. Both of those links you can find in the Instagram on our link tree. It has everything going on there. And as far as the song Same Drugs, if you have a fun drug story that you'd like to tell us about doing drugs with somebody, go to anchor.fm/The Elephant Wire Podcast, and there's a little button at the top that says message. When you click on that, it'll ask if it can use your computer's microphone, and when you say yes, it can record you, and you can tell us an awesome drug story, because at the very end of the season, episode 20, which is sometime in February, so we've got a little bit of time, but let's get on this. At the end of the season, episode 20, we're going to compile all those messages of people telling us awesome drug stories, all of the ones that we've gotten in our DMs, and all sorts of other places that we're going to get these awesome drug stories. And we're going to share them all in one episode, and we're going to have a hoot, and it's going to be a good time, and we're going to love it, and it's going to be fantastic. But as far as today, that's about all I got for you. If you like what you heard and you like what we got going on here at the Elephant Wire Podcast, support us at anchor.fm/The Elephant Wire Podcast. You can give us a one-time donation, support us monthly. If you like what you heard, especially tell your friends, like us on Instagram, follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, give us a review, throw us 5 stars. We love it. Thank you so much for listening today, and as always, fuck the man. Hail Satan. Hug your mom. We'll catch you guys next Monday. Peace.